In the future, a big nuclear disaster called the Flash ruins nature. America becomes a wasteland, and surviving is tough. 30 years later, in a forest full of ash, a cat finds food near a dead body. Nearby, a guy named Eli waits with his arrow ready. When Eli hears the cat meow, he shoots and kills it right away. He takes the cat and continues his journey. He checks cars for useful stuff and finds an empty house. Inside, he looks around and tries to fill his water bottle, but the taps don't work. He finds a dead body hanging in a closet, but he still searches it for anything useful despite the bad smell. Later, Eli cooks the cat while cleaning his weapons and listening to his old iPod. The smell of cooking meat attracts a rat, which Eli notices when it squeaks. He shares some cat meat with the rat. After cleaning himself with wet napkins, Eli spends the night in the house, reading his book and sleeping. The next morning, he finds out his iPod is almost out of battery, and the car battery he uses to charge it is also running low. As Eli continues traveling, he encounters a woman with a broken shopping cart on the road, asking for help. He notices a bad smell and realizes it's a trap. Eli calls out the thugs hiding nearby. The gang emerges, and their leader tries to rob Eli, pushing him around. But suddenly, Eli cuts off the leader's hand with his machete. Eli fights the rest of the gang all at once, swiftly killing them within minutes without getting hurt. It's like he's protected by a higher power. He also kills the leader but spares the woman. She offers him a bottle of water, but he can tell it's not safe and doesn't drink it. After searching the bodies for anything useful, he goes back to the road, listening to music until his iPod dies. While walking near a ruined highway, he hears bikers attacking a couple. Feeling sorry but reminding himself not to interfere, Eli watches as the bikers kill the man, assault the woman, and steal their books. After the bikers leave, Eli emerges and continues his journey until he reaches a town. He enters the shop of the engineer, who threatens him with a weapon right away. Upon hearing the engineer's threat, Eli swiftly takes the weapon to show his strength but promptly returns it, clarifying that he's just a customer. He then asks the engineer to recharge his battery rig and offers wet napkins and a lighter as payment. While the engineer works on it, Eli heads to the bar across the street, where he sees the bikers who committed the earlier violence. They're meeting with Carnegie, the town's warlord. Carnegie is searching for a particular book, so his henchmen gather any books they can find, even though they can't read the titles. He examines all the books they've collected, but the one he's looking for isn't among them. Frustrated, he orders them all to be burned. However, his mood improves when the gang leader, Ridge, presents a small sample of shampoo he found. Carnegie rushes to use it on his concubine Claudia, who is blind, and she enjoys the smell and the head massage immensely. Downstairs, Eli trades gloves and a scarf to have his canteen refilled. While getting his items out, he accidentally startles a cat, making it hiss. The bartender hands the canteen to Claudia's daughter, Solara, who goes out back to fill it. Ridge attempts to block Solara's path, indicating his interest in her, but she pays no attention and joins the water line. Inside, a gang member becomes angry because Eli startled his cat and attempts to provoke a fight. Eli swiftly subdues him by slamming his face against the bar and tries to leave, but the rest of the gang attacks him. Eli is forced to defend himself, engaging in a fight with all the thugs simultaneously. With agile movements of his machete, Eli dispatches each thug one by one, effortlessly defeating them. After defeating all the thugs except one, Eli is about to finish off the last one when Solara returns and pleads with him to stop. The distraction allows the remaining thug to catch Eli off guard, and he gets captured and brought to Carnegie. Carnegie offers Eli a chance to join his men, but Eli refuses and attempts to leave once more. However, Carnegie insists that Eli stay the night against his will. Claudia brings Eli some food, and he quickly realizes she's blind. Curious, he asks her a few questions about her life story. Meanwhile, Carnegie sends Solara to Eli's room to persuade him to stay by offering herself to him. Eli rejects her advances and tries to send her away, but Solara explains that Carnegie will harm Claudia if she doesn't comply. Reluctantly, Eli allows Solara to stay for the night to protect Claudia. Solara, intrigued by Eli's age and experiences before the Flash, asks him questions about life before the disaster, and Eli shares some stories with her. Solara discovers Eli's book and expresses excitement, curious about its contents since she can't read. However, Eli quickly hides the book and refuses to talk about it. Later, when they sit down to eat, Eli shares his food with Solara and teaches her how to say grace. The next morning, Solara has breakfast with Claudia and recites the words Eli taught her. Carnegie is shocked to hear this and demands to know how Solara learned it, hurting Claudia when Solara doesn't provide a satisfactory answer. In a desperate attempt to protect her mother, Solara reveals that Eli has a book with a strange symbol on it, mimicking a cross with her fingers. It turns out Carnegie is searching for a Bible, and Eli possesses the only one left in the world, as all others were destroyed after the Flash. Excited, Carnegie orders Ridge to retrieve Eli's book, but when they enter the room, Eli is already gone. Ridge swiftly executes the guard for the error and dispatches his men to locate Eli. Meanwhile, Eli retrieves his battery from the engineer and attempts to depart the town. However, Carnegie intercepts him and demands the book. Believing the Bible is the key to dominating society, Carnegie is prepared to kill Eli for it. Despite the threat, Eli remains unfazed and simply continues walking away. In a sudden turn, Ridge fires 2 shots at Eli, but both miss their mark. Irritated, Eli retaliates by drawing his own gun and expertly shooting down any enemy he hears, landing every shot with precision while evading the bullets aimed at him. When his gun runs out of bullets, he switches to a shotgun and continues to eliminate the thugs, even managing to injure Carnegie in the leg during the chaos. Recognizing that Eli seems to have divine protection, Ridge allows him to depart for the time being. After Carnegie receives medical attention for his leg, he attempts to send his gang after Eli. However, Ridge, hesitant after the loss of many men, strikes a deal. He will retrieve the book if Carnegie agrees to let him have Solara as his concubine. Shortly after, Eli hears Solara trailing behind him. Solara explains that Claudia sent her because she would be safer with Eli, but Eli insists on sending her away. Determined to convince him otherwise, Solara offers to guide him to the town's water supply, which turns out to be a clean underground spring. Eli eagerly fills his canteen, but then he deceives Solara, locking her up in the cave so he can proceed with his journey alone. Solara eventually escapes and sets out to find Eli, but she encounters the woman with the broken cart instead. Despite Solara's attempt to assist her, the woman urges her to leave, fearing for her safety. Suddenly, two thugs ambush Solara and, after assaulting her, they drag her away to a secluded area with sinister intentions. Solara's cries for help lead Eli to her, and he swiftly takes down one thug with an arrow to the groin and the other with a shot to the throat. Solara expresses her gratitude with a hug, and they depart together. Later, Carnegie and Reedridge stumble upon the bodies, alerted by circling birds. They also discover a piece of Solara's clothing, providing them with a direction to pursue. Meanwhile, on the road, Eli hears a bird and skillfully uses an arrow to bring it down. As Eli retrieves the bird, he asks Solara to take the wire from his bow. When night falls, they decide to rest in an old cooling tower. Solara requests Eli to read to her, so he shares a few lines from the book before putting it away. Eli reveals that when he found the Bible, a voice guided him to keep it safe and assured him of protection. Solara then asks him to teach her how to read, but Eli remains silent. Sensing an opportunity while Eli is asleep, Solara tries to take the book, but Eli catches her in the act and warns her to stay away from his bag. The next day, they continue their journey and come across a house with a "No Trespassing" sign, but they overlook it and approach the door. Suddenly, a trapdoor opens beneath their feet, causing them to fall into a hole. As they recover, the door to the house opens, revealing Martha and George, an elderly couple armed for protection. They question why Eli and Solara ignored the "No Trespassing" sign. Eli apologizes politely, explaining their circumstances, and his respectful demeanor persuades Martha and George to allow them inside. At first, the conversation goes smoothly over tea, but things take a dark turn when Martha and George show them the backyard, revealing it as a burial ground for those who attempted to attack their home. Eli realizes they're dealing with cannibals and urges Solara to leave. He keeps his gun ready to prevent the couple from blocking their exit. However, just as they attempt to leave, Carnegie and his gang arrive in cars. Eli and Solara quickly retreat back inside, where George unveils a hidden cache of weapons concealed within the sofa. Using a megaphone, Carnegie demands that Eli send out Solara with the book to avoid conflict. A package is thrown out of the window, which Reedridge rushes to grab. However, instead of the Bible, it's revealed to be a bomb. Reedridge narrowly escapes the explosion, which destroys two cars and kills several thugs. Amidst the chaos, Carnegie's men open fire on the house, prompting Eli to retaliate by throwing a grenade. Reedridge, annoyed by this, responds with a missile, causing significant damage to the house and resulting in Martha's death. Enraged, George begins firing wildly, taking down as many thugs as possible until he is overwhelmed by a Gatling gun, leading to his demise. Eli and Solara find themselves surrounded and are forcibly removed from the house. With Solara's life threatened, Eli reluctantly reveals that he hid the book in the TV. Reedridge retrieves the book and hands it over to Carnegie, who releases Solara but shoots Eli in the stomach. Despite his injury, Eli tries to stand up with a dagger in hand, but Carnegie kicks him down and departs with his men, taking Solara with them. In one of the vans, Reedridge places Eli's machete on the dashboard, while Solara retrieves the wire from Eli's bow. She uses it to choke the driver, causing the van to flip several times until it comes to a stop. As the other cars turn back to investigate, Solara moves to the driver's seat and discovers a grenade, which she hurls at the vehicles, causing another explosion. After jumping into the driver's seat, Solara discovers that Reedridge has been impaled by Eli's machete. Despite being alive, Reedridge pulls the machete out, but he succumbs to his injuries as soon as he steps out of the van. Solara drives away, and Carnegie decides not to pursue her, as he already has the book. When Solara arrives at the house, she can't find Eli. Worried, she continues driving until she finds him on the road, still determined to reach his destination. Solara immediately helps Eli into the van, and he uses duct tape to wrap up his wound. After a few hours of driving, they reach the Golden Gate Bridge, only to find it broken and impassable. Eli realizes they're close to their destination, so they find a rowboat to travel to Alcatraz Island. When Eli becomes too exhausted to row, Solara takes over. Meanwhile, back in town, Carnegie struggles to open the book due to its strong lock. He calls the engineer to unlock it, eagerly anticipating its contents, only to discover that it's written in Braille. It's revealed that Eli has been blind all along, explaining why he reacts to things through his other senses. Desperate to read the book, Carnegie asks Claudia to do it for him. Despite her joy at reading Braille again, Claudia lies and claims she's forgotten how to read it. She also warns Carnegie about his infected leg, suggesting that it will lead to a loss of respect. Carnegie discovers chaos in the town, with locals looting the bar and his men fighting each other. Overwhelmed with despair, he collapses. Meanwhile, on Alcatraz Island, an armed guard allows Eli and Solara to pass after Eli claims he has a Bible. They meet with a curator who has been preserving art from before the Flash, aiming to safeguard humanity's history and potentially aid in its reconstruction someday. Since they don't have a copy of the Bible, Eli reveals that he's memorized it all and begins dictating it so the curator can make his own copy. The process takes a considerable amount of time, during which Eli takes breaks to shave and change into clean clothes. After much effort, the new Bible is finally completed. Eli passes away peacefully from his gunshot wound. He is buried in Alcatraz's courtyard garden, and a bound copy of the Bible is added to the collection. Solara, now listening to Eli's iPod and carrying his machete, leaves to return to her mother.
Make sure to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you will not miss any of our video updates.